Okay. How's everyone doing? Before we start, let's give it a few more minutes. Want to make sure the channel is receiving content. It is stating that it's receiving content, which is always a good thing. It's green. Always love that. We're going to give it a few minutes. Okay. Want to make sure everything is good and healthy before we start the show. Okay. Looks like it's going. And want to make sure everything is working. Just give me a few, guys. Just want to make sure everything is working with no problem. All right, give me one time. Give me a sec, guys. I'm trying to get everything going before we start the show. For some reason, having some issues. All right. Hi. How's everyone doing? Just give me a few more minutes. Give me a few. Trying to get something going on. And for some reason, it's not going. What's going on? All right, so let's start. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you guys are able to see everything, hear everything with no problem. So I'm trying to get the Facebook stream to go, and I'm having some issues with the Facebook stream today. And all right, awesome. Okay. So, okay, it looks like the Facebook thing is going. Awesome sauce. Awesome. So let's get started. Okay. Hey, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining the server room every Saturday, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. A big thank you for Lenovo for hooking us up with the TD340. Without them, the server room won't exist. You know, even though I could build a machine and it still exists. Thank you so much. If you have the power to leave a comment, leave a comment at the chat. Hey, say hi, say bye, say what's up, say whatever, say your name. Let me know where you're from. For those individuals that are always tuning in every single Saturday, thank you for joining. And at the bottom of the video, of the live stream, there's a link of the notes. And I'm also going to place the notes at the chat so you guys can have a copy of it. There goes the notes. Awesome. And so let's just get started because this topic is really big for me. And the reason why it's really big for me is because I'm learning it. So I'm showing you guys what I have learned so far. I've been trying to learn this and configure it and deploy it within my infrastructure, my 9-to-5 job. And it is really, really interesting. So if you are able to download the notes are going to give you the following. It's going to give you 3 things. Today's presentation, the network topology. Yes, I'm trying to give you guys the network topology of what I have within my lab. And then you have the SDN master. Now, the SDN master is actually located and downloaded from the github.com. And this is a script that a lot of individuals have been entering stuff to make it even better. Every day, almost every day, it gets, modified and changed and improved. Just to let you guys know, I haven't successfully deployed SDN within my lab. And I think the reason why is because, check this out. Look at the requirements for this thing to work correctly. This is a monster. A physical Hyper-V host needs to be at least 4 cores with a clock speed of 2.66 gigahertz. Primary operating system is no problem. Hyper-V row is not a problem. Look at the memory that you need, space that you need, and at least a 1 gig physical network adapter. Now, for the SDN infrastructure virtual machine, check this out. Network controller needs 3 nodes, and this is the problem that I get with my TD340. I don't have that capacity. I had to create a nested virtualization, meaning I have my ESXi, and within that hypervisor, I have Windows Server 2016. Within that Windows Server 2016 virtual machine, I have Hyper-V. Okay, so look at the requirements. I am not capable to successfully do it, even though the script allows you to do a standalone, which is 1 virtual machine, and production allows you to do 3 nodes. Okay, so I just want to keep you guys I just want to give you guys just a heads up that I'm still working on this. I'm trying to deploy it successfully, but every time I'm getting an error within the script, I fix it and then something else pops up. So let's take a closer look on the infrastructure of today. So again, I have my ESXi host. It's connected to the internet. Within this guy right here, we have a virtual machine, which is my PFSense. And that virtual machine has 2 NICs, one for the WAN that gives it, the public IP address, and then the LAN gives it a different subnet. Now, all my virtual machines are connected to this NIC with this IP address. I have 1 virtual machine, which is the System Center Virtual Machine Manager, and then I have an additional server, a Windows Server 2016. And don't get me wrong, all these machines are running Server 2016 except this guy right here, because this guy is a Linux base. And within this Server 2016 machine, I'm going to zoom in for you guys. Within this Server 2016 machine, I actually have Hyper-V installed. And within Hyper-V, I created a Windows Server 2016 64-bit template. Now, for SDN, for this to work correctly, for your network controller to install, your operating system needs to be Windows Server 2016 Data Center. Okay? From my understanding, for what I've read so far online and the TechNet blogs, it doesn't work with standards, so it has to be Data Center. Okay? Now, this guy will pop up as soon as you run the VMM SDN Express script. And the SDN master folder that I give you guys within today's notes is what I downloaded a while back. And there's a particular file that you have to modify, which I'm going to show you guys to do all the settings for this to work correctly. And we're going to go over the script, so don't worry about it. So this PowerShell script actually creates this Hyper-V container, and it creates a SDN switch, which I'm going to show you guys where this guy's come from. And this SDN switch is actually 2 NICs that are embedded as a team NIC. Now, this virtual machine or Hyper-V machine actually has 1, 2, 3, 4 NIC drivers, NIC adapters, network adapters, whatever you want to call it. And the green one is their LAN. The other one is just it's just floating. It's not really being used. And the other two, which are actually Team NIC, I actually teamed them inside the System Center Virtual Machine Manager, which I'm going to show you all this good stuff. Okay, the script works. It creates the security files, the certificates that it needs. It creates the network controller. It creates the 2 service accounts, and even creates the Hyper-V virtual machine. But for some reason, it just dies out when it needs to add it to the domain. And I do have internet access. The SDN switch does have internet access. For some reason, it just kills it. So I'm still working on it. All right, so let's zoom out of here. You guys have that little copy right there. And again, these are the requirements. Just look up SDN requirements, and it just breaks it down. Now, if you guys are able to take the information that I'm providing to you today inside your infrastructure and you're able to deploy it, hey, please contact me. I would love to see how it really works inside another lab. My lab kind of sucks because I don't really have these kind of core requirements, but I'm still playing around to see if I could get a workaround and get it to work correctly, right, with a small little baby server. Okay, so I'm gonna close this up because we don't need it anymore. Again, this is the information. Double click on that. This is all the good stuff. And if we go inside the SDN VMM right here, go to VMM and go to the VMM SDN Express. This is the file right here that we're going to be looking at and modifying and doing all that good stuff. Okay, so let's close that up and let's get into the presentation. All right, let's full stream it. All right. So first thing first, software-defined networking, or SDN, is an approach to computer networking that allows network admins to initialize, control, change, and manage network behavior dynamically via open interfaces and abstraction of lower-level functionality. That's awesome. This definitely works if you are deploying or you are a hardcore individual within your infrastructure that are dealing with Hyper-V. So I have a client that's, dealing with Hyper-V, and I would definitely love to implement this within their network. A couple of things with Hyper-V: you have to have the 3 nodes for this to work within a production environment, because you need a load balancer, you need a network controller, and you need something else that I can't remember. All 3 of these Hyper-Vs needs to be inside a cluster, and the storage needs to be a multipath input and output storage. I don't really have that kind of setup, so I can't really test that out. For the second bullet, SDN is meant to address the fact that the static architecture of a traditional networks doesn't support dynamic, scalable computing and storage needs of modern computing environments such as data centers. This is the reason why when you're creating your 3 virtual machines, your 3 nodes, Windows Server 2016 data center has to be deployed. Okay, it doesn't work with standard. So first things first is create Windows Server 2016 Hyper-V template. Okay, hopefully you already have your Hyper-V already in place. This is really simple. You right click on your Hyper-V node, you create a new virtual machine, get the nice little wizard. You could give the name, you could give your virtual machine whatever name, and you could drop it whatever. Now my primary location to drop my Hyper-V is the E drive. So once you do all that information, you hit next. I did generation 1. A lot of the documentation online does generation 2. Generation 2 is great if you're doing with UEFI or firmware. But for me, my TD340 doesn't need generation 2. So generation 1 worked for me when I was deploying and the operating system was, installing and everything within the script. So you pick your generation, click on next, assign memory. I only gave it 2 gigs, and I unchecked this guy right here because I don't want the dynamic memory for the virtual machine. Okay. Then you configure your network. Because this is going to be used as a template, I don't really need this machine to have a network adapter. So I just left it at it as is, and connect the virtual hard drive. I think by default it gives you 128 gigs. Again, I don't have that much, so I just dropped it down to 40 gigs. Hit next. Installation options. I basically said install the operating system later and just click next. Summary, hit finish, and then you're good to go. This is the guy right here. Now, for the next thing, I just right clicked on it, go to settings, and within settings, go inside your ID controller. And then what you want to do is either mount the ISO file of your operating system. For me, it was already mounted within the host as the D drive. So I just want to make sure that it was there. Okay, you're gonna right click, hit connect, get the nice little window. Again, I'm just making sure that the D drive is being captured, because as soon as you hit the power button, it's gonna boot inside the ISO. Okay, and that's what you want. So boom, once you boot it up, you're gonna get the nice little window. A lot of us admins and network admins or IT support guys have seen this, so this is super easy. So I'm gonna go through it real quick. So click on next, and voila, right? It's a basic installation. You click next, next, next. Make sure that you accept Windows Server 2016 desktop experience data center. Okay, it does not work with standard. And then from here, you could do whatever modifications that you want. Change the firewall, install .NET framework, because eventually, once you do all those settings, you need to sit prep and to export. So the next thing is export the Hyper-V. And again, within the virtual machine, once you make all the modifications, you make sure it's fully patched. A lot of the documentation online when you're dealing with SDN and you're creating your network controller, your load balancer, and the other node that I cannot remember for the life of me, you got to make sure that the operating system is fully patched, and yeah, that's the only way it will work. Once you do that, you go inside your C drive, Windows, System32, SIP prep, and then you open it up. Make sure that you do the OOBE, the open box experience. You want to check off generalized, and you want to shut it down. Not restart, shut down. Once you do that, it's going to do its thing. It's going to process it. It's going to do the plugins and all that good stuff, and eventually it's going to shut down. And then once it shuts down, just right-click on it and export. Okay? Pick a location. For me, I dropped it inside my E drive, and I created a folder called templates. Real simple, right? And the process starts. It took within my infrastructure, because again, I have ESXi, and within there I have a virtual machine. Within that virtual machine I have HyperV, and within HyperV I'm creating a virtual machine, and within that virtual machine I'm exporting it. It's crazy, but it was fun doing. It takes a while. It took between, I would say, 40 gigs container, shrunk it down. It was about 10 gigs in size. Took between 5 to 10 minutes. Not that bad. Okay, so once you export it out to the location that you want, next thing that you need to do, I created, again, within my topology that I showed you guys, I had a virtual machine with SCVMM, which stands for System Center Virtual Machine Manager. Now, the core requirements for this, guys, is you need to install .NET Framework 3.5 features. I would love to see Microsoft automatically have this plugin or this feature installed within the operating system. Now, just have it there, because there's a lot of things that we do. .NET Framework 3.5 needs to be installed, and us constantly going inside the manager and installing is a pain in the butt. Next thing that you need to do is install the latest and greatest Windows ADK. I installed the Windows 10. I don't recall which version is out now, but if you just do a Google search and just do Windows ADK, just download and install the latest one. Now, when you're doing the installation, you don't need all the crapware that it gives you. So I unchecked off the volume activation management tool, the user state migration tool. I unchecked all that stuff because I needed, the only two things that you need is the deployment tools and the Windows PE. Okay. And last but not least, you need Microsoft SQL Server. Throughout the presentation, I didn't show you guys the SQL stuff. It's just default. It's using the MS SQL Server instance name, the default instance, nothing special. It's local, so I didn't really need to open up any ports, which is a good thing. So hopefully you guys know how to install the SQL Server or already have a SQL Server database into place. Okay, so the next step is to install your System Center Virtual Machine Manager. So I am installing 2016. I'm using the trial-based one, which is almost running up, but hopefully I could get my environment to work correctly. Hopefully, I'm praying. You click on Start. Once you hit Start, you want to check these two guys because you definitely want the management server as well as the console. Boom, 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 and click on Next. Give it a name, organization, and a product key. If you don't have a product key, you could just take advantage of the, I think it's 180 days. That's a lot of days that you could play around with Virtual Machine Manager. Click on Next on that. Accept the terms. If you want to read it, that's a lot, but us, typical admin person, will just check it off and just click Next, right? Click Next. You get this. Click on Next. It is best practice to check off recommended because you do want to get the latest and greatest updates. Because it's a lab, I just checked off. Say hell of it, I don't need it. By default, it's going to drop inside your C drive. It's really up to you if you want to change it to location, and boom. If everything works well, now I don't want you guys to think this is magic, because after this step right here, the next process is going to check if you have all the core requirements. It's going to check if you have .NET. It's going to make sure if you have the ADK utilities installed within the server. If you don't, you're going to get a nice little warning indicating or an error stating that you need this installed. It won't continue. But if you have all that stuff done beforehand, you're going to get this awesome, nice little window, the database configuration. And from here, you just basically say new database, the server name of your database. For me, it's local, so I can either enter the server name or just type in localhost, and then you're good to go. Okay. And once you click on next, you want configure a server's account and distributed key management. Now, I did not do a DKM for my Active Directory, so I left that as is. Depending on your infrastructure, this is a good thing because this kind of stores encryption keys within the Active Directory for your virtual machine manager when you're doing installation stuff. This is a good thing to do within production, but for a testing lab, I just said, hell of it, I'm not going to do it. But I did provide a domain account. Now, again, I do tell you guys that best practice is you always want to create an Active Directory account for every separate application that you deal with. If you're dealing with MDT or SCCM, you have to have an SCCM admin account, right? Do not use the admin domain account that you have within Active Directory. Because in the lab, I don't follow that at all, so I just used the admin account for this guy. But for best practice, you definitely want to create let's say a VMM admin account and just use that, okay? So click on next. Once you fill that up, these are all the ports that are going to be open. Once you do the installation, you had a crap load of ports. Just make sure that your firewall has a lot of these enabled. I would say don't have, I know certain firewalls will have like any 8100. You don't want any 8100 to be open to any LAN or WAN or WAN to LAN. You got to make sure that you specify that port to this particular IP address because you don't want all traffic to go to 8100. Only 8100 going out to this machine. Click on next. And library configuration, I didn't have a library configuration. This is the first one, so I left it as the default. I did change the share location to be in my D drive. Once you do that, click on next. Nice little summary, and you install, and it's installing. Once it installs, you get this nice little window. You could check for latest virtual machine manager updates on the spot, or you could open up the console. You know me, which one I did. I unchecked this guy, and I just opened it up, and you get this nice little window. By default, it's going to say the server name, which is localhost. If you're doing remotely, most likely you need to have the server name, whatever name you provide the server, and make sure that you put :8100, and you specify the credential that has full access to the virtual machine manager, okay? And there it goes. Once you open it up, you get this beautiful, nice console. It looks just like the SCCM console, which is awesome. And next thing that you need to do is add the HyperV Server into your System Center Virtual Machine Manager, which is pretty simple. So what you want to do is go inside your VMs and services. And within your VMs and services, you want to go to all hosts. Just right-click on it. And once you right-click on it, you get multiple options. You can even add a VMware ESX host and cluster, which is awesome. I actually added my VMware within my 9-to-5 job, and it works awesome. It doesn't really give you full control, but it gives me like CPU, memory, gives me a nice little history of what's going on. I love that feature. But the one that we're going to do is add VM host and cluster, which didn't have the opportunity to do a cluster because the TD340 cannot handle it with all the virtual machines that I have, plus the specs that I have kind of sucks. Within this option, you want to do Windows Server computers in a trusted Active Directory domain. You can click on next. From here, so this is what I learned from this part right here. Whatever account you are using within your VMM server, you cannot use it. You have to use another domain admin that has access to servers within your infrastructure that allows you to install the VMM agent. Okay, so you hit browse. You click on create run as account. I gave it one. I created a BTNHD with the password. I selected that guy. And this account right now has full access to my servers within my infrastructure, and it allows it to install whatever plugin or agent that it needs to install. If you're using the account that you have logged into your virtual machine manager, it's not going to work. It's going to fail. I learned that the hard way. Once you do all that, you click on next. And then this kind of sucks. Like, kind of disappointing on this part right here when you're adding the resources. You have to add the computer name. It'd be nice if it gave us like a browse button, and then within the browse you could type in like maybe 2 or 3 letters of the virtual machine and just click on find, and it would automatically auto-populate, and then you're able to do that. It doesn't do that, so you got to make sure you type in the computer name the correct way. Now, the time that I was taking screenshots, I did have 2 virtual machines, 2 HyperV machines, and I had one with 2012 and another one with 2016 because I was testing stuff out. 2012 does not work when you're dealing with software-defined networking. Trust me, it does not work at all. So just make sure that your servers are running 2016 data center. You want to click next on that and check off whatever virtual machines you want. Click next. And right here with host group, you can click on that drop-down menu. Or actually, it's going to add it to the host group. Okay? And then you want to enter the path of where all your virtual machines. Now, this path is not the local path of your virtual machine manager server. This path is the path of your Hyper-V. Okay? So you're basically telling virtual machine manager, okay, when you create a virtual machine within virtual machine manager, where do you want me to drop it locally within the Hyper-V? Okay? So everything for me was the E drive. You click on next, got a nice little summary, hit finish, and then you get this nice little window. And once this window pops up, everything should go, everything should be okay. Everything is gravy. Got the 2 virtual machines there. It takes a while for it to actually load up and you're able to view stuff that's in it, but be patient. Stuff is going to show up. And okay, so one of the errors that I received was the multipath input-output issue. And you're going to get this error if you don't have multiple path input and output enabled for whatever particular Hyper-V. Now, because I'm running everything within the virtual machine environment, multipath input-output doesn't really work for me. Multipath input-output is for storage, and I didn't really set up my Hyper-Vs that way. But anyway, I went inside my virtual machine. I went to Manage, Add Roles and Features, click on Next, Next again, Next again. And within here, you want to click on Next and go all the way down until you see Multipath Input Output. This didn't really make any sense for me to do within my lab environment because I know my storage is not capable of handling this, but I just wanted to show you guys how to configure and install it. It's really simple. Just go inside your server manager, and it's right there within the features section of it. So click on Next. It's going to install. I think it reboots the machine. And once it's done, yep, it does restarts the machine. And once it restarts, then you're back and good to go. But the reason why I took this screenshot right here, guys, is because I wanted to show you, regardless if I had the multipath input-output feature within the Hyper-V, you're still going to see your Hyper-V there. You're still able to see whatever virtual machines are within your Hyper-V console. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're testing out with a lab that does not have the capacity of handling the multipath input-output feature. You're still able to add the Hyper-V with no problem, okay? I think it was just a warning. Was it just a warning? Let's check real quick. Let's go back. I think it was just a warning. Yep, you see, it was just a warning, so it's not really major. Okay, so once you get that going, next things that we need to do is add the Windows Server 2016 template into your System Center Virtual Machine Manager library. Now, this is really simple because if you go inside within your VMM, go to Library. Within Library, you want to go to Library Server. You want to expand the server name. And within the server name, you're going to see is a SCVMM library, which is Microsoft System Center Virtual Machine Manager library. Oof. A lot. And within that folder, you're going to get 2 folders. You're going to get the application frameworks, and then you're going to get the VHD, the virtual hard drives. You want to right click on that and then pick Explore, and that's automatically going to take you here. It's going to give you the UFC path. Now, this UFC path is going to be very important for us later on when we are manipulating or updating our config file for our VMM SDN Express script. Okay. So from here, what I did was I went inside my HyperV server, UFC path. This is the path. And I just dragged it and dropped it. Made a copy of it. And eventually this will pop up. If you're very impatient like I am, you could just close the console and just restart the console, and it will refresh and it will pop up. Okay. Next thing that we need to do is one of the things that the software-defined network script doesn't do. It doesn't create your logical network. It doesn't create a port profile. It doesn't create a logical switch. So these are the things that you need to do beforehand before you run the script. I think it does run it. I'm not too sure. I don't remember. So to create a logical network within your virtual machine manager is you want to go to Fabric, and within Fabric, inside networking, you have logical networks. So you just want to right click and create a logical network. Give it a name. For me, I gave it management and I abbreviate it. So click on next. And the option that I picked was this guy right here. Create a virtual machine network with the same name to allow virtual machines to access this logical network directly. Now, all these steps is what I have found online within the technet.com or whatever site, Microsoft site. And this is the steps that I've used to try to get myself up and running. Again, everything looks like it's working, but it's just always have those little glitches. And you want to click on add. Once you click on add, now this is another thing. Within all hosts, I created a folder, a group called BTNHD, and within that group I created another folder called NC Manage. NC stands for Network Controller, which I didn't show you guys in the very beginning, because most likely when you right click on all hosts and you add a virtual a HyperV host, it's going to add it at the main root of all hosts. What I did was I just created subfolders, because eventually on the script I'm going to be calling this guy here to contact or talk to the HyperV that's inside this node. Next thing that you need to do is, once you check off whatever group, insert your IP subnet. Now, again, I have been playing around. I've been playing around with this and modifying, making changes to make stuff work. And eventually, when I got it to work, I was super happy. And one of the problems that I have was the VLAN. I set it to 8. I actually set it to 0 with the current infrastructure system that I have right now, which I'm going to show you guys. Once I set it to 0, stuff started to work. Hopefully, I wish it would work like correctly and got the full deployment, but it's okay. So the VLAN right here is 8 on the presentation, but behind the scenes I changed it to 0. Click on next. You get a nice little summary. Hit finish, and you get the nice little job thing that pops up every time you do something within your virtual machine manager. Everything was green, which was great. And there goes our logical network. So next thing that you need to do is create a port profile. Within create so to create a port profile, you want to go again within Fabric. And within Fabric, this is where we do a lot of our management stuff. And within networking, you want to right click on port profiles and create a HyperV port profile. You want to give it a name. I give it SDN trunk port. You want to do is a uplink port profile, and you have multiple options within the teaming mode. I should have just took a screenshot of the different types, but I left it as the default as switch independent, and the default algorithm is host default. Okay, but there's multiple options. I just left everything as the default, and this is the settings that Microsoft TechNet actually provided. Okay, so I'm just following them. So click on next on that. You want to choose your logical network that you created and click on next. Nice little summary, and you finish. And nice little the job history dialog box pops up. Got the green check mark. And that is how you create a port profile. Super simple. And next thing that we need to do is create a logical switch. Now to create a logical switch, again, you're inside your Fabric. And within Fabric, you go to networking, and then you right click on your logical switch and create a logical switch. Super simple. You get the nice little summary of what is a logical switch. You can read it. Click on next. Give it a name. I gave it of SDN switch. And the uplink mode, you have 3 options. You have no uplink team, and embedded team. This is where I picked the embedded team, because when I configure my SDN switch within my HyperV, which I'm going to show you guys, I have to tell it that I'm going to be using 3 and 4, network adapter 3 and network adapter 4 to team NIC. At the beginning, I did no uplink team, and I didn't get an IP address on the switch, and I wasn't able to talk to my network. And then when I changed the uplink mode to embedded team, everything started working with no problem. I was the virtual machine that was deployed with the virtual machine manager SDN Express script, the PowerShell script, had internet access, but for some reason it just didn't want to talk to the domain. So click on next on that. By default, this is what you have. I left it as is because this is what TechNet tells you to leave it. Don't change it. The extensions, the only one that's checked off is this guy right here. But one of the things that TechNet tells you is uncheck it. Don't leave it checked off. So uncheck it. Hit next, and then you have your virtual port. Now within the virtual port, there's 3 profiles. There's several profiles that you create, but I'm gonna show you how to do one of them because eventually one of the slides is gonna pop up 2 other ones, and I don't want you to think it's magic. So click on add, and within add, you want to click on browse, and click on browse. See, okay. Damn slide is messed up. Okay, so once you click on browse, you're gonna pick low bandwidth adapter, high bandwidth adapter, medium bandwidth adapter, and you have to do this in each one. Once you pick it, you're gonna check this off. So I kind of messed up on the slides. Once you pick your low bandwidth adapter, you can check this off. You click on browse, and then you find the low bandwidth adapter, and then you go. Okay, and then you have to do it a couple of times. Click on add again, and once you do it again, it's going to be high bandwidth. So right now you're going to have low, high, medium bandwidth, and then your HyperV virtual network adapter port profile is going to be low, high, and low, medium, high bandwidth adapter. Okay, and there's another one that you can add as well called the host management, which I didn't add within the presentation, but I'm going to show you guys all that stuff within my virtual machines. Click on next. Well, once you have all your virtual ports configured, then you click on next, and then you need to add a uplink. So click on add, and you want to do an existing uplink port profile, and that would be that SDN trunk port that we created. And click on next, and it's automatically going to show you your logical network, your load balancing algorithm, which is the default host default, and your team mode, which is switch independent. And from here, what you want to do is you want to create a new virtual network adapter. Give it a name. I called it management. And you want to check off this virtual network adapter will be used for host management and inherit connection settings from the host network adapter. Now, I don't have VLAN ID 8 anymore because I changed it to 0 when I created that subnet. Again, this is like before I started making modifications to get everything to work to see where it works. But once I made the modifications, I went back into the TechNet and I started reading, and it was like, okay, you need to change this to VLAN 0, and I changed it. That's when again everything started working. So once you do that, click on next, hit finish, and you get the nice little dialog box with the jobs all green. That's always a good thing. And there goes our SDN switch, right? So right now we created our logical network. We created a port profile. Make sure that you are creating. You can create 4 of them. The 3 of them is low, medium, and high bandwidth. And make sure that you attach the low, medium, and high bandwidth adapters to that profile. And the last one is a host management, which I didn't show you guys within the presentation, but it's right there. It's right there in your face. And the next thing that we did was logical switch. Okay. And now we need to add our logical switch to our HyperV server. So really simple. So what we need to do is go to Fabric, click on whatever group that you created. Most likely, you might drop it within our host. But for me, behind the scenes, I created a folder called BTNHD, and within BTNHD, I created another folder called NC Manage. I right-clicked on the server, went to Properties, and went to Virtual Switches. automatically you're going to have one switch there because it's reading that switch from the HyperV server. So you want to click on add virtual switch. You want it to do is a new logical switch. There it goes. Logical switch is going to be assigned to whatever you created within your logical switches node. And this changes a little bit because eventually I added, let me go back. I added an additional adapter, and I assigned it to network adapter 3 and 4. And I just make sure that the uplink port was assigned to this. Okay. So, yep. Once you apply everything, you're going to hit yes, and then you're good to go. Okay. Now, another thing that you need to do is create an IP pool within your logical network. Now, to do that, to create an IP pool, you want to go inside your fabric, go inside networking, logical networks, right-click on your logical network that you created, and create an IP pool. Give it a name. It's going to be assigned to whatever logical network you have. Click on next. You're going to be using the existing site. Remember, we provided an IP subnet when we configured our management, when we configure our logical network. So we're still using that. There's VLAN changes for me eventually because when I was playing around testing everything out, I had to change it to 0. Click on next. You want to give a starting IP address and an ending IP address. Again, I had to change this. This is just for demonstration. I gave it only 31 IP addresses. Okay. You want to provide a network routes and a default gateway. And on DNS, you want to give it a DNS. I gave it my Active Directory DNS server, and as well as I gave it Google's. And you can actually provide a DNS suffix. On WIMS, I'm not using that, so I just clicked on next. Nice little summary and finish. And then you get this guy right here. Cool. And now, that's it. Now, the next thing that you need to do is run the virtual machine SDN Express. Now, I want to show you guys the script. So right now, I am inside my System Center Virtual Machine Manager. So I'm going to zoom in so you guys can take a look. So this is the machine right here. Like I said, presentation is kind of false because I kind of made a lot of modifications since then. So if I right-click on this guy, go to Properties. My pool size has changed. IP arranged. See, it's changed it a little bit. My network sites. See, I changed the VLAN to 0. And my DNS is the same. DNS. Oh crap. I think I found why I'm not able to add it to my Active Directory. That's probably a problem. And my suffix there, my WIM. And you can actually add inactive addresses if you want. Press OK on that so it can be up to date. And, so let's look at the script. So let's open this guy up. So this script, let me zoom out real quick for you guys. Zoom out so I can go up. You're probably saying, so where's this script, Bernardo? So the particular, the notes that I gave you today has the SDN master. So if you double click on it, let me zoom in for you guys. If you double click on that folder, within that folder, you're going to get the VMM folder. Double click on that. And within that folder, you're going to get VMM SDN Express. Double click on that. You have your fabric config example, and then you have your fabric config file. This is the primary one. This is just basically an example. Make a copy of it before you make any modifications. But I think the one that I gave you guys is the one that I'm using. So I'm going to close this guy because I don't want you guys to think, oh, I gave you like a bad file or anything. So I'm going to right-click on it, go to Edit, so it can open up within Windows PowerShell ISE. And let's take a closer look. So the first attribute that you need to assign is your Windows Server 2016 64-bit virtual hard drive. You got to give it the name, okay? This script will talk to your local virtual machine manager server. So you got to make sure that you copy over that template that you created within your Hyper-V infrastructure over to your library. Now, your VMM library, it has to be a UFC path and make sure it is active. If you don't know how to get that information, it's real simple. You want to go inside your virtual machine manager, and you want to go inside library. And within library, you want to go inside library servers, expand your server. You're going to see this folder right here. Right click on it. Actually, don't right click on it. Yeah, right click on it. My backs. Right click and go to explore. And it should pop up. This guy, this is the one that we want. Okay, so we want to copy and paste that. Let's go back to the script. Where are you? There you go. Cool. All right. Awesome sauce. And you actually need the library one. So you're clicking on this. This is what you want, explore. So it's the library one that you want, not the VHD. Okay. Let's go back to the virtual machine. Okay. So next thing that you need to do is provide a product key. If you want to provide a product key, it's up to you. Whichever way you configure your Windows Server 2016 template, you have to make sure that you give it the correct generation. The network adapter. For me, I did Gen 1, so I just added Gen 1. Now, for the script, it gives you two types of deployment. You have standalone, which is what I was trying to do, which is a single node within my infrastructure. I'm not really capable of handling 3 nodes. Like, holy crap, 3 nodes? It's crazy. And within those 3 nodes, that means you have to have 3 HyperV servers, right, with the requirements that they want, and they have to be a HyperV clustered. So I did a standalone, and right here, high availability VMs. By default, well, if you're doing Hyper-V cluster, you automatically have high availability within your virtual machines. So you don't really need to answer this. I think by default it's already true. I just set it as false because, again, I'm just doing a standalone. Storage classifications, I hit false on that. IP address, if you want your IP pool, your IP address pool that we created within your logical network to assign it, you could just leave it as is. So you got dynamic and then you got static. Now, your NS host group name. So this guy, NS manage, is where I have my Hyper-V stored. Now, if you did not create a group within here, if you do not create the group, I'm going to show you, where are we? Fabric. Okay. If you did not create a group like this, if you didn't right click and within your all host, come on, and create a host group. If you didn't do that and you just left your virtual machine within all host, right here within the script, just add all host. If not, just give it whatever name you dropped your Hyper-V servers into. Next thing that you want to do is a logical switch deployed? Yes, we created a logical switch. I was playing around with this and I hit false, and for some reason it was erroring out. So that's the reason why you need to do a little bit of legwork before you run the script. The logical switch, again, give it the name that you would provide it. And do you have an existing management network? Yes, we do have one. We created one already. If the above is true, what's the name of it? Give it the name that whatever management, the management virtual network is basically the logical network that you created, okay? The uplink profile port, remember we created the low, medium, and high profile, hopefully, right? That's the ones you created. Give it a name there. And then right underneath here, this is where a lot of the magic happens. This is where you create your HNVPA. I'm trying to remember what this stands for. Holy crap. I'm trying to remember. Oh, I forgot what it stands for. Crap. All right. So then you have your transmit. And within your transmit, underneath that, you got your public IP address. Now, if the script was working correctly, this right here, this network would have created itself. This one would have been created. You got your public IP addresses. This one is set to true for it to be deployed. Then you have your private IP addresses. Then you have your GRE VIP addresses. And then you have your network controller management with its own IP addresses. So you got to modify this. Again, this is something that I'm still learning and trying to understand it each day. I'm still working on it, and hopefully I can get it up and running to see if I could push it out within the production. So I definitely want to test it out inside a lab to see if it breaks anything. But it's a cool technology, and super excited about learning it. So underneath here, you got more stuff. You do need a self-signed certificate. If you set it to true, it will automatically create it for you. You want to assign a password, crappy password, but make sure it's nice and strong. You want to do is a client security group. I am doing domain users, not best practice. So most likely create a security group that specializes for this only. You're providing the local admin credentials for your virtual machine. So this right here, when it's logging into your virtual machine to add it to the domain and everything, this you need to have that. You got your management domain account. You can set it as domain user. Well, the management domain user, whatever account I'm using admin, but best practices, make sure you create a management user account and then you provide a password. The only thing I don't like about this script is that all the passwords are like plain text. It's not good, right? You need to provide your domains fully domain qualified domain. You got to have a security group. Now this group right here, I created it beforehand. I went to Active Directory, created a NC management, and the only users that I have within this group would be my admin and my virtual machine management server account. Okay. From here, when you're creating your virtual machines, again, you're going to be pushing out 3 virtual machines. So as 3 nodes, you want to have like a specific prefix. So all my virtual machines are going to be SDN dash whatever. And then you got to make sure you create a REST name or register name within your DNS for your network controller. Underneath, again, this script does the following. It deploys the network controller. It deploys the network controller manage for your transit, and your HNVPA. Also your SLB and your GW, your gateway. It also deploys your SLB and your gateway. Now I said all this false because for me to actually have all this set up, you need to have at least 3 nodes. So I only wanted to test out the network controller. Okay, so let me zoom out of here. Let's go back into the PowerPoint and bring it up. Awesome. So once you got that modified, what you want to do is you want to go inside the root of the folder, your virtual machine manager SDN Express. You want to do a /VMM Express.ps1. You're going to give it an attribute of -configuration data file / and the name of the fabric config file .psd1. Okay, you hit enter. If you hit enter, you're going to get, when you go inside the jobs section, you're going to see an instance that is creating itself, and all this stuff looks like it's working. It's magically working. And if you go inside your Hyper-V, you're going to see the virtual machine create itself. It's going to start. And if you go inside your virtual machines and services, if you go to all hosts and you click on services, you're going to see your controller. It looks like it was deploying. Again, like I said, everything looks like it was working, and eventually it just died out for me. But I think I have a good idea, because within my, close this up real quick. Within my, I think within my logical, within here, if I right click on here, my DNS was set wrong. Where are you? Right click on that. My DNS was set wrong. Now, one thing that you could do is when you're constantly having issues with the script, because it automatically is going to create the following for you. It's going to, if I go to library, it's going to create it's going to create the service deployment configuration, which is your network controller. And if you're trying to do this manually, it is a pain in the butt, because if I right click on this guy right now and I configure the deployment, I want to show you guys what's actually behind the scenes if you want to do this manually. Like, I was really happy to actually see the script online, and you have a community or a group of people that are constantly modifying and making changes. But this is the stuff that you have to do if you're doing everything manually. This is pretty scary, especially for an individual that's learning it for the first time. And so I just went straight off and did the PowerShell. So that's one thing that you need to delete. Service template is another thing that you need to delete. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to delete it because I'm gonna run it. And right now, this is my virtual machine. If it pops up, where are you? There goes a virtual machine. And I'm going to go to service templates again and creates a network deployment service template. I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to delete it. Just delete it. And this is if you want to test it again, rerun it again if you're having issues. This is what I was doing almost the entire week to test this out. You want to go inside your library, and these are the three certificates that the PowerShell script creates. So I'm definitely going to delete that stuff. Awesome. And because the deployment wasn't really successful to the point that it added itself to the Active Directory and a DNS entry was created and DHCP gave it an IP address, I didn't need to do any cleanup. So if the script does go pretty far for you to the point that it adds it to the domain controller and it gives it a DNS entry point, and it fails on you and you want to rerun the script again, just make sure you go inside templates, you delete the NC first, go inside your service template, delete that, go inside your library, delete those certificates, and then you go inside your settings. And within settings, you want to delete these two accounts that are created during the PowerShell script. And then you go inside your DNS and your Active Directory and you delete all that stuff. Okay, so I'm going to do, just for the hell of it, this is my PowerShell. Like, this is the error that I was receiving constantly. And I had like a crap load of different errors, and eventually I had to go back in. I Googled it. I went inside the forum. I went to the community. I asked questions. I got answers. I went back. I tweaked it, got stuff working. And eventually it's like more errors popping up. But I'm really excited about this topic. I definitely want to try to get it up and running. But I would like to know, are you guys implementing something like this within your infrastructure? Have you guys even thought about or heard about software-defined networking within your infrastructure? I would definitely like to hear from you guys. But before I bring out the chat, Before I bring out the chat, let's zoom in, and I'm going to bring up arrow because that's the thing. I'm going to hit enter, and hitting enter will allow it to run. Right now, it's creating itself. Remember, we deleted a crap load of stuff within our virtual machine manager, and eventually we're going to see the certificates pop up here. Okay, we're going to see the certificates. Eventually it's going to run, and within our HyperV infrastructure, we should see our virtual machine. Cool. I think I found an error that I couldn't find during the week, and it was the DNS. I had the DNS set to something different, which is no good. So I changed that. So hopefully I get something out of it. So right now it's running. Now, if you want to check for logs or any problems, it gives you a log file, but it's not really detailed. Now, if you go inside your SDN master file, a folder, go to VMM, and within scripts, you have a log file. When you double click on it, it doesn't really give you too much. Now, the error that I received was the following. It stopped on creating account, and there's some failure cleaning up the system to get the previous state. That's it. That's all it tells me. It doesn't really give me much. So it's like a hit and miss. Okay, so looks like it's doing something. Kind of surprised, because normally this thing is flying. And like always, it's see, created one script. Awesome. I mean, created one certificate. And all right, let it do its thing. Hasn't created the virtual machine yet. So, all right. So let me switch to scene 3. Awesome. Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Again, I want to know if you guys have played around with this. Have you guys played with this technology within your infrastructure? I would definitely love to get some feedback from you guys. Or let's do a one-on-one. I would love to talk to you, pick your brain, because I'm still learning from this thing. Today's show is about what I've learned or what I've taught myself or what I read online. And I would definitely love to get some feedback from you guys, because I would definitely want, I've been saying definitely a lot. I would definitely, I really want to implement this within my infrastructure, but I want to test it out to see how well it works before I go full blown and do a production. So let's go inside the chat, talk to you guys for a bit before I end the show, because it is 4 o'clock on the dot. How awesome is that? And as always, when I want something to work fast, it's not working. All right, now the script is just hanging right now. It's hanging. That's awesome. All right. So let's go inside the chat. We have Tony. What's up, Tony? Hi, hi, hi. We have King Crazy Cheese. What's up, King? We have Dan or Danny. I've got 10 people. That is awesome. It's always awesome. We have Danny from Atlanta. What's up? We got King Crazy Cheese from UK. Awesome. UK. How's the weather over there? Danny says, this is going to be an exciting webinar. Wow, you consider these things webinars. Ugh. Yeesh. Danny says, System Center Virtual Machine Manager is a beastly product. Yes, it is. Believe it or not, at my 9-to-5 job, we had a license for it. We had a fully blown license for it for the 2012 R2, and I didn't know about it. And the only reason that I found out is because I was heading over to my Volume License Center portal to log in to get the latest and greatest SQL 2016, and I saw it there. I was like, holy moly, what is this? And I had a license for it. I was like, oh, nice. So I deployed it with my 9-to-5 test lab, tested it out. That's how I found out about all the core requirements. And right now I have it up and running, and I love it. I really, really enjoy it. The fact that I have a console admin, I have an admin console that allows me to manage my HyperV stuff plus my VMware stuff at the same time. It is awesome. Great, great tool. Jeff is from Texas. Hello from Texas. How's the weather down there? I'm assuming it's really hot now. We got Benjamin King. He says, hi, I'm working on MDT following your videos. Oh, awesome. Hopefully they're very helpful. Benjamin King says, just upgraded to an HP DL380 G6 dual 6-core server. Ooh, that's a mouthful. That's pretty sweet. Awesome. Very awesome. Cool. So before we continue with the chat, let me go back into 2 because I want to show you guys real quick. It looks like it's going through. It's doing something. Look at that. Doing magic. And if we go back in here, look at the 3 certificates that we deleted. And if I go inside the service template, it creates the template for us. If we go inside here, bam. If we go to settings, it creates those 2 accounts that we deleted. And if we go to virtual machines or VMs and services, if I click on services, you're going to see our network controller. It should pop up. There it goes. There goes our network controller. Looks like it's going. If we go inside HyperV, there goes our virtual machine. I'm going to connect to it. Cool, cool, cool. Now, there's another thing that I forgot to show you, because remember, I told you guys that I did Network Adapter 3 and Network Adapter 4. I did a team NIC on them. So if I right-click on my HyperV server, I go to Properties, and I go into my virtual switch. My virtual switch, again, it has that SDN switch, right? I added those 2. Those 2 network adapters are pointing to our uplink port profile. And within my management, and then when you're setting up, it's going to be set up as a team NIC. Within my management, it's set to 0. I have nothing great, and a DHCP is going to be assigning the IP address. All right, cool. But it looks like it's doing something. It has not start up the virtual machine, but if I go to File and go to Settings, eventually within here, we should see our SDN switch come about. How cool would that be if this damn thing works live? You know how excited I would be? I start doing cartwheels. All right, so let's go back into scene 3. Booyaka. Awesome. And it's just me being silly. And let's go back into the chats. It says, hot, sexy girls online. Oh, no. That's no good. We are going to block that user. And we're going to block that user. We don't want spam, all right? This is a place that we keep it safe, healthy, and we all learn from each other. I don't need that stuff, okay? Also, I have a question for you guys. If you guys are willing to be a moderator for the server room, I would like to know. Don't leave it at the chat right now if you want to be a moderator. I know there's a couple of you guys that are always tuning in, so this opportunity would definitely be out for you guys because I kind of depend on you guys for always being there. If you are interested, please shoot me an email and let me know if you're interested. Let me know what your name is as well as your YouTube name so I can look you guys up and give you give you rights to, filter out that nonsense from our chat, okay? We have one dev says, why not just do best practice while in the lab? Oh, okay. So one dev, this is a great question. And the reason why I don't do best practice within my lab is because my lab is not really capable of handling best practice. I just want something quick and dirty and easy and up and running. A lab environment is something that you want to test to see if it breaks it or fixes it. If it doesn't break it, then you start putting in your best practices. That's the way I like to work. A lot of people like to work differently, but for me, I like doing it that way. I know it sounds kind of stupid and kind of silly, but it's been working out for me. It's been working out really great. I like to go inside the lab, do silly things, stuff that is not best practice, get it up and running, add the best practice in it, and then put it into production, and then everything is just running smooth, right? Knock on wood, right? So we got Big R. How are you doing, Big R? It's been a while. So he says, I noticed you are using VM nesting in this lab. You mentioned VLANs to get VLANs to pass to HyperV. Create a new port group and put in VLAN or 4095. You can pass VLANs then. Ooh, good tip. I appreciate that. Thank you, Big R. And we have another individual. I do not understand that. Big R says, connect the HyperV hosts guest VMs to the new port group. Okay. Oh, so wait a minute, Big R. So have you done this before, Big R? I would definitely know. Big R, let me know. Have you actually done this before? Because if so, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Big R, you gotta let me know if you've done software defined networking within your infrastructure. I would definitely want to pick your brain. I definitely want to pick your brain, later on, because that would be super interesting. I would love to get some feedback from you guys, from you, or from anyone that has this within their infrastructure. Okay, so we're gonna continue. We've got Tony. This is the first time I've heard this, and it seems interesting. Yes, it's very interesting. It's within the Server 2016. Is one of those things when you look around Server 2016, you try to poke around stuff, you find new things, and you want to play around with it and look it up. And this is one of the things that I'm playing around with right now, and I'm super interested about it. We got Benjamin King. I never heard of the sound like an interesting lab project to try. Yeah, it is. Again, I provided the information for you guys with the PowerPoint. Hopefully that will help you guys out. If you get it successfully done within your network, please let me know, because I would definitely like to pick your brain. Big Art said he's not on software defined network. Ah, man, it is okay. But I'm gonna continue doing my thing on my part. It is right now 4:09. It is still running, so it is still running. It's still doing its thing, which is okay. As always, when we're doing this stuff, live, everything starts running extremely slow, which is okay. But if you guys follow me on Facebook and Twitter, if it finished, if it's successful or not, I will take a picture and shoot it out to you guys so you guys can know what's the deal. But overall, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for episode 20. Wow, 20 episodes in. I know, I think maybe 2 or 3 episodes back, I said that episode 20 is going to be the last one. But I got more. I got more under my belt, and I'm going to be pushing out episode 21 hopefully next week. Hopefully you guys tune in for that. And that's it for the show, guys. Thank you again for tuning in. Please make sure you download the notes. I'm going to drop the notes again on the super chat so you guys could grab that stuff, test it out within your environment. For those individuals that have tested or have SDN implemented within your infrastructure, definitely contact me. I would definitely love to pick your brain. Again, thank you so much. Thank you for the support. And I catch you guys on the next server room. Peace out. All right, so how do you end this? I think you end it by hitting the end button. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Laters. Wait a minute. Did I end it?